I'm Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
Welcome to VO Buzz Weekly, the web show all about the voiceover business.
Yep, and we're back today for part 2 of the Billy West interview, and I think we should go there now.
I'm on my way already.
Let's do it. Okay, so I have to ask you, because I think this might be kind of fun coming from you, and that's, tell us some of the odd jobs that you did before you did any kind of entertaining stuff that you had to do to support yourself.
Oh, wow. I was like nomadic, you know. I mean, I could only stay at a job a week at the latest, and I'd send my friend to go get my paycheck. I was a total coward. Like, I couldn't just show up and I go, listen, I quit, can I have my paycheck? I didn't even have the balls to do that, so I'd send my friend, and I'd be waiting in his car, and it's like, you know, now we can get drunk.
Yeah.
I worked at U-Haul for one day. I was shoveling dirt out of an 18-foot, you know, cab.
Yeah.
Shoveling dirt all day and trying to park a car. It was somebody's brand new Porsche. It was a Standard, and I didn't know how to drive a Standard, and I tried to put it in reverse and move it to another space, and it's like they say when you're learning to drive a Standard, grind them until you find them.
Yeah.
All I heard was you know, grinding away, and the guy probably wanted to kill somebody when he came back, and his car was like, what the hell? Those are my experiences. I worked in factories all the time. And I also did a lot of dishes at like Jewish old age homes and nursing homes. And it was because if you were doing dishes, you're kind of like all by yourself and you're walloping pots, as they used to call it. But I used to play albums in my head, and I used to listen to them.
This was before iPod.
Yeah.
From beginning to end. One of my favorite albums was Truth by Jeff Beck. I knew it so well that I could go from one song to the next in my head.
Wow.
And I'd be washing dishes, and next thing you know, the hour was over. You know, because I was so desperate to listen to music, but they wouldn't allow that stuff, you know. But yeah, so many crappy jobs. I barely got out of high school. You know, I went to Berkeley College of Music. It wasn't a college, it was a school, non-accredited, in 1970, and I said, I got to get out of here. I want to play for a living. I don't want to learn what it is, you know.
Right.
It was kind of smug. But, you know, it's just like those are the ways you find out where you can go and you got to learn your liabilities and your weak points, because success never taught me anything, to tell you the truth. Being successful teaches you nothing. It's failure that is your greatest teacher, and trying something and realizing I'm not good at this. Those are your lessons, and very valuable ones.
Yeah, because we were going to ask you, how do you define success for yourself?
Pretty much like that. It's like I don't expect it all the time because I like to try things that are risky, like in performing. Like I always want to go for an off-the-nose type voice. That's one that you're not expecting. You know, and the inspiration for that comes from all over the place. And, you know, just think, wherever you're sitting, everything in your life had to happen the way it did for us to be sitting here right now, bad and good.
Yes.
I know for me, because I play guitar as well, and whenever I'm like thinking too much about stuff that maybe I don't want to be or shouldn't be, and I grab my guitar and just sit down and start jamming, man, it's like you're literally traveling to another world.
Yes.
Instantly.
There's something I have to say about that. You don't notice the passage of time. Especially, like, even if you're doing voices and you're on a gig, you don't realize the passage of time because you're hobnobbing with the gods of creativity. It's like you don't know how much time has gone by. You're just tripping through this dreamscape. And when I would go and play in the room, I'd come out at 3:30 in the morning, my eyes would be plaid like I was high. And it wouldn't be that. It was from improvising and being in a world for a little while where there's no right or wrong.
Right.
You can't do wrong, because everything you do doesn't have a law or a should-have attached to it.
No.
And you can do whatever you want. If you're free to make mistakes, but that's so freeing, and it takes your mind off of, you know, conventional planning and lists and all that stuff.
Yep.
And I heard a quote one time. You'll love this. Some jazz guy said that improvising was you never play something the same way once, which is crazy. It's like it's almost like a creativity exercise. How is that possible? How can I, you know, how can I do the first one and not play it the way it's going to go?
Yeah, yeah.
But it makes you think about stuff, you know. And you have to delve in creativity exercises. Like one of them was, a friend of mine used to say, when you want to just get out of yourself and tap into your creativity, if you were walking through the woods and you somehow kicked a rock and it opened up and in it was a new primary color, what would it be? And you'll go nutty trying to imagine what that could be because you think all colors have been discovered. But we only see a certain type of light and we only see certain colors, but there's probably zillions of them. And
our computer monitor has millions. So
but at least we recognize them. But if we had like a fly's eyes, it would look like a new primary color to a fly, or at least the first one.
Yeah.
But it's nonsense. It sounds like nonsense, but to get your brain in that direction, to even dare think outside the box, it's not nonsense. It's all a serious aid. It's like I hate to say this, the wind beneath your wings, the grist for your mill.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can do it.
You can do it. So let me ask you something, man. With all the voices that you do and all the impersonations that you do you ever forget who Billy is?
No. I have a real good sense of self. When I was drinking and drugging, there's no way you can have a sense of self.
Yeah.
I would say if you're doing anything, any kind of libation, it's not a good idea to start trying to be professional until you square away demons, because the creative process and demonic things, like weird things that you do that are you think are strange but you can't help but do them, you got to try to clear that away, because creativity almost invites that. It invites your whole soul in there, including the id that lives in the attic. So you got to learn how to control him. Just make sure that if you let him out, you got the key to lock him up again.
Right.
And that's just me being honest.
That's good,
man.
Did
your creativity change from being sober to?
Yes. When I got sober, I was so scared that there would be, if I was happy, because I was depressed, and I had treat depression now, but with real medicine, not alcohol and coke.
Right.
My process, everything was cleaner and purer and better than I ever did it before, because it's not coming through a filter of the depression and the odd way that stuff changes your brain, and you're not ever seeing anything for what it is. So eventually I started doing it, and when I asked the guy, I was chronically depressed from birth. I never knew what it was like to feel normal, ever. And so at 50, I finally find out, and it's like, whose ass do you kick? I want to kick my own ass, but I'll break my leg. And it's like, guy says, you should feel lucky, because most people don't know how good they have it, but you do.
Wow.
You were in a rainstorm your whole life, and then finally you came to a tunnel where there was light, and you're out in it, and you're staying in it, and it's like most people can't A-B it. So I said, yeah, you're right, I do know the difference, and I'm grateful for it.
Right on, man.
The other thing is, I asked the guy about pills. I was afraid to do depression medication, even though I severely needed it. I said, what happens if I'm happy and I feel content or placid or serene or content, whatever, and I don't feel the need to do anything for attention, to satisfy a creative itch? What if it gets like that? And he goes, that's a very good question.
And I'm sure he sounded exactly like that.
And he said, all I can tell you is that people come in and they've been treated and they say they're doing the best work of their career. So don't be afraid to get rid of crutches and Band-Aids, that you need to get through life. I'm not saying everybody does that, but there are people
there are a lot of people
that treat troublesome feelings like that, and you got to get rid of them as fast as you can before you become an artist that's a professional. That's what I think. You don't want to be known for being nuts,
Right.
What if 150 years ago they gave slaves in the fields, this medication? Suddenly they felt good. They weren't that depressed, and they were, I said, what would have happened to our country, to our culture? And he says, what do you mean? And I said, well, they were in such pain in the soul and in the body and in the mind, they invented a 12-bar form of music, which is totally American music. It's not derivative of anywhere else in the world, because they sang out their pain. And they invented blues. And blues begat jazz. And jazz begat rock and roll. If we didn't have that culture, to be with us all these decades and everything, what would we be? Would the House of Blues just dematerialize, and with coliseums, that they built just because bands could play, they'd be like, So he was saying, I get what you're saying, but I maintain that if you need help, you gotta look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, man. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Billy. That's really cool, buddy.
I know you've helped some people out there.
Okay. Now, I've seen you play. I've seen you play.
I've seen you play.
Good. And I can say, if you guys haven't seen this guy play, go search him up on YouTube or something, because I'm sure there's stuff up on there. The guy's amazing at what he does.
There's very little.
Well, if they can find something, they'll get to see you.
There's a clip of the David Letterman show from about 16 years ago.
Okay.
And I was playing with Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. I was playing in his band. This guy was one of my idols, one of my heroes.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever played with Brian was we did a little show in Santa Monica, and we were just going to play some oldies with him. He wanted to get out there and test out the waters.
Yeah.
And so Elliot Easton from the Cars is an old friend of mine, because you're talking Boston.
Right.
I knew Aerosmith coming up, everybody. Pete Wolf, Jay Giles. And so my hero, Brian Wilson, I wind up playing with him in Santa Monica, and with Elliot Easton and another friend of mine, Andy Paley. And we were doing songs like 409, all the Hot Rod songs and everything. She's real fine, my 409. We were singing the harmony and everything. And we get to the break, and I'm playing the little clunka lead guitar break that they had, which is so beautiful because it was pure, it was just of that time. And that's a real neat style too.
Totally.
So surf music. And so all of a sudden it gets, my dual quad positive traction 409, and I got up to the mic while I was playing. I went like that, and he's sitting there playing, and he goes,
Oh my gosh!
He was so happy. He was like, yeah, and he's like an innocent. He's like the closest thing to an angelic being that I ever met in my life. Wow. And we played on David Letterman, and his two daughters sang with us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
It was great. And
you worked with Roy Orbison, too.
Yeah, I used to play for, I used to open up for acts like Roy Orbison and the Association and, Frankie Valli. When this hadn't been over with yet, like they were getting resurgence in popularity, like in the 70s, around 75.
Yeah.
And I'd open up for these legends, and I got to talk to Roy Orbison and got to talk with like Jan and Dean. And a lot of people, you don't know these names, but thanks to YouTube, you can look up anything and you'll
Jan
go
and
back.
Dean and the Screaming Woman.
Yeah.
Yes, right. And you can also talk with Jan and Dean. You can be the third Dean or Jan
with them.
You can be the whatever, the third Jan and Dean. But this was so great of an experience because you're talking with people that shook the earth and the universe, as far as I'm concerned. And that energy, I was hoping, you just get this jolt from it. And I swear to God you do when you go up to somebody and go, man, I met Jeff Beck, who's my all-time music hero.
Me too, one of my biggest.
He's a seeker. He forewent all the glory and all the hit records because he was looking for new things to play on the guitar. He didn't have pop songs. He didn't go that route. He wouldn't sell out.
Are you still writing music, or?
Oh yeah, I'm still writing, but when I met Jeff Beck, it was like I didn't know what to say. My knees were knocking. I don't care about celebrities. Celebrities come in and do voices for cartoons now and movies, and it's like my heroes are not celebrities. They weren't celebrities. They were artists.
Right.
That's how I came up. I don't care about celebrities. So Jeff Beck, meeting him, it was like I didn't know what to say, and I leaned in and I went, God bless you, man. And he looks at me and he goes, right up to my face, he goes, God bless you too. And he was probably I felt like he's humoring me.
Yeah.
But he did know who I was. That was a thrill.
Oh, wow.
He says, you're sort of like the Mel Blanc of our generation. And to hear Jeff Beck say it was like, I can't hear anyone else ever say that, but you can hear it from him.
That's so cool.
He says, we get at the program over in the UK, and he was talking.
Maybe that's the point where you thought to yourself, I made it.
Yeah.
For a second.
Yes, because somebody who shaped your life and shook
Yeah.
the earth and inspired you
Right.
is aware
Acknowledges
of
your
you.
work.
Exactly, man. And
That's
that
it.
doesn't-
You know what? We solved the mystery.
We solved the mystery.
Brilliant.
Let's end the episode.
Not quite yet.
We're not done with you yet.
That's funny,
Let's
man.
go.
Any other things that you want to share in regards to the touring and all that stuff?
I have to mention that when I was playing in bands in Boston early on, we all kind of knew each other. Like I knew Aerosmith because they had the same manager as me,
Right,
and this
right.
guy would say, "You guys gotta go see Aerosmith. They're the guys that are gonna make it." I'm like, "What about us? You gotta go see Aerosmith." And so we go out to see this Aerosmith, and we go to a club called the Coral Gables, and we used to play there all the
Yeah,
time. And hear these guys banging into each other on stage.
now, is
and
this before they made it?
Yes.
Okay.
They were starting to
Right.
make some noise.
Yeah.
And they were banging into each other on stage. And, I didn't know what to make of the singer because I just thought everything was derivative.
Yeah.
But it turns out it wasn't because they developed. They were given the opportunity to keep developing. And they're them.
Yep.
There's no other them.
No.
Yeah.
Same as there's no other Rolling Stones. I mean,
No.
they made their mark. They've been
Absolutely.
together for, 100 years?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I looked at my drunken bass player, and I'm smashed too, and I said, "These guys are never gonna make it." I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "Besides, what kind of a name is Aerosmith? What does it mean? I know what an arrow is. But,
They
don't
spelled
worry
it
about
wrong.
it."
Yeah.
And famous last words.
Famous last
But
words.
I've known them over the years, and I used to go on tours just as a pal.
So, Billy, you have a very unique story in regards to 9/11, and I know that when I heard it, not from you, from somebody else,
Yes.
it literally freaked me out. Like I just froze, and I'd like to hear it from you, and maybe you can share with us.
Okay, I'll start with I owe my stinking life to women's breasts. I owe my life, and I'll tell you why. Because it was a couple of days before 9/11, and there was a flight leaving from Boston, which is where I went to visit. But I knew that there was this benefit that I had to play at back in Los Angeles, and it was a women's breast cancer benefit to raise money. And I realized that the days were too close, and my ticket was booked for the Boston flight that left and went into the World Trade Center. That was the flight. I got the ticket somewhere. I hope I didn't lose it. I mean, because I'd shudder if I saw it.
Yeah.
But it was that time, that odd time. It was like 8:14 or something
Yeah.
like that. And I remember it in booking the trip. And then I unbooked it and went back earlier than 9/11. Wow. And I missed it. But there's also another story is Seth MacFarlane and his sister were supposed to be on that plane.
On that same one.
Same one, and he missed it. They were, how the door is all the way
Yeah,
down
yeah,
here.
yeah.
There'll be another one in an hour. They yell under the door. Don't worry about it. And he was like, but he would have been on that plane.
Oh.
Yeah, who's the third one in the golf cart that would?
Yeah,
it's like
I
there's
don't
always
know, man.
three.
Yeah.
But
But
it
I mean-
didn't happen.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
Not
like
your time.
You hear stories like that, and you're like, wow, it's like
Yeah.
your whole life, your whole destiny. It's like where you are right now. Everything you've done up until this point has led you to where you're at, and everything that happens, nothing. I don't think anything happens as an
accident.
excuse or as a by accident.
Yeah,
You know?
it was the same flight crew coming from LA to Boston, so I actually knew faces.
Wow.
And talking. I remember talking to them, because
Yeah.
I just be friendly with everybody pretty
Yeah.
much. And I can't, it was so surreal that you could be, you have no idea what you're missing by doing something else.
Yeah.
It could be cataclysmic because you decided, you know what, I need some Chinese food. You go to a Chinese
Yeah.
restaurant instead of walking further down and a bus creams you.
Yeah. Right.
So consider yourself lucky if you're sitting there watching this.
Right.
We're all
yeah,
damn lucky.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
On a lighter note,
Yeah, everything's gloom and
on a little
doom.
bit of a lighter note, if you can hang out for an entire day with someone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Gosh, that's a tough one. I would have to say Aaron Copland. At the risk of sounding like a snob, I am not a snob. It's just Aaron Copland was a 20.
He's not. He drives a Ford Focus.
He's
No,
brilliant.
I
just kidding.
don't.
I'm kidding.
I
I'm
drive
totally
a
kidding.
hybrid.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant choice. He's amazing.
Well, Aaron
Amazing
Copland
man.
was one of my big heroes in symphonic jazz.
Yeah.
Because he took stuff and he turned it all upside down the way Brian Wilson did it. The way any guy or woman that comes along. Laura Nero was one of my early heroes. I would love to spend a day with Laura Nero. She, again, YouTube, I tend to spit out names that sound like a curator in a museum.
Yeah.
And this woman, who was around a long time before you were born, you know, it's like statues and this, you
In
know.
this exhibit, we
You
have.
hadn't been born yet, but
That's the beauty of the technology, though. Is
I know.
Even if you're not in a certain
and
generation,
I
you can
urge you to
appreciate
go
it.
look up some of these names. But Aaron Copland's music is famous, and people would know it, not realizing it was him, like Fanfare for the Common Man and Hoedown
Appalachian
from
Spring.
Rodeo Appalachian Spring. And it touched me because it's such Americana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with like other cultures or anything. It's this pastiche of beautiful symphonic elements that were turned upside down to be presented in a different way.
Yeah.
And same thing with voiceover. Everything you ever heard in your life goes into your head, and it's like a meat grinder. And instead of pink slime,
Yeah, right?
like
No
a lot
pink
of
slime.
places, you percolate all these things, and what comes out of you is the total sum of all your experiences. Anybody you ever talked to, anyone you ever heard, it's in there, and it comes out. It
Yeah.
has to come out of you some way.
So it's safe to say then there's a piece of you in every character that you have?
Yeah, I
Or
have.
who do you think you're most like?
That's a tough one, but I do know that I put the Three Stooges in anything that I can get my hands on. Some idiom from the Stooges,
Yeah.
you know, because I love them so much. But I don't know if there's a signature sound that I have. A lot of people said, you know, that when he's doing Eminem, he sounds like Fry, and when he's doing Fry, he sounds like Doug, and when he's like, and it's like you can't read that.
Yeah.
You just can't. I mean, because what are you gonna do? Like get on the keyboard and try to convince some little hammerhead that you are more versatile than that, and you got me all wrong.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Oh, no.
And these people can be so vicious. They post with this vehemence as if there was something at stake.
Yeah.
On the internet, like there was an awards show for the surliest poster or the meh.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest meh whoever wrote a post.
Yeah.
And or there was a Hall of Fame or something. There's nothing. You're wasting your time. You don't get paid for it. There's nothing at the end of it, and
Yes, we
nothing
know
is
about
at
that,
stake.
right?
But go out and go. If you don't like something, go out and try to change it. I saw radio when I first got into radio, and I said, I honestly, smugly sat there and said, I don't know anything about radio, but it won't be long before I turn this place on its head. And that was in Boston, and I actually did it because I believed it could be done. I thought, you know, radio tends to stagnate unless somebody comes in and shakes it up. And I tried to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to going to the Stern Show, because he was a firebrand. He knocked down every rule and wall of radio.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so it was kind of a natural thing that I would find my way towards him. Just like you do with anybody. If you ever wonder why you're with the people you're with, is because you have like energy.
Yeah.
It's not even magic or voodoo, it's pure physics.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is. You're
Yes.
right.
So do you have any professional heroes or mentors?
Oh, sure. There was tons of them. Like as far as cartoon guys, it was of course Mel Blanc, who I actually got to meet one day. It happened at Clark University in 1981, I think.
Yeah.
And I just happened to read that he's going to be in Worcester, Massachusetts, which was, you know, an hour away, giving a voice and slide lecture, because they used to, you know, play slideshow, which was just stills of his characters. And he was there, and he just killed everybody, and he was so amazing. You know, it's like, I know that word is used for anything now. You know, it was amazing that light didn't blind me, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but he was truly, could just, you know, rearrange you molecularly. It was like, I don't know how to explain it, but, you know, when I shook hands with him, it's one of those jolts. I met Jeff Beck, which I mentioned earlier, and it was one of those. And I met Les Paul, who's another great hero, which everybody's heard of the Les Paul guitar.
If you haven't, you need to get out.
You need to get out more. And, gosh, I'm trying to think. I met Stan Freberg, who was a voice actor, but he was also a radio god. You know, he was the last syndicated radio show. It was in the 50s to, I don't know, not quite the end of the 50s, but I heard all that stuff. And I have them to thank, and I have gotten to thank, personally, from me to them, thank you, for the jump start. And like that, you know, I've met other people that I've gotten to thank, and it's a tough feeling to describe. It's you're being accepted by people that you thought were so beyond your scope, and they get where you're coming from, and they can see the twinkle in your eye, that you're like energy.
Yeah. Well, these are people. These are important people. These are people that get you to do more. They got you to push that extra mile. They got you to work harder, right?
Oh yeah, I used to look at people's hands on the back of album covers, you know, like it started with the Monkees. That's how I learned to play certain chords on the guitar. I didn't have a teacher, I didn't have a book.
He had a monkey.
But I loved the Monkees on TV. Yeah, I did. And on the back of their first album cover, you know, it was their first album, the Monkees.
Yeah.
There were pictures of them playing, and Mike Nesmith was playing this weird thing like this, and I didn't think it was legitimate. I just thought it was a pose. And I tried to replicate it, and I realized, no, it's this silly E chord, except all the way up the neck, anywhere you wanted it. As long as you acted like the nut, like the beginning of the guitar, your finger now had to be the stopper, and it's still the E chord. And they're called bar chords. But I didn't know. I had no idea. I didn't even have a magnifying glass. We did have a wine glass that had a lens-like bottom to it, and I was going like this, trying to see it. I mean, I would just go to weird lengths.
I can just imagine Billy doing that. I can just imagine you sitting there looking through a glass to look at a chord.
Yeah, and there was a song called Mary, Mary, and I tried to play it in open chords, and there was no way you could do it. You had to play this big, solid chord, and it was way up the neck and then down to E. I hadn't learned that there was an E above that bar chord. And that was a way to train, you know, like down here and learning how to get up here. No, it's not happening. And, you know, and then you learn to play in time, and you're better than you were.
Yeah.
You know.
And that was all from a photograph. So imagine all the other heroes, right?
Oh,
well,
sure.
You have such a curious eagerness to learn and to... I mean,
do.
You've clearly had your whole... It's part of your... being.
I have to let you know that whenever I go to a session, I mean, all my friends in the voiceover community, they also happen to be the coolest, friendliest, generous people. You know, they're generous as actors.
Yeah. So let me ask you, man, what is next? What's next on the accomplishment list for Billy West?
I can't project. I know what I would like to do is take all my experience and my performing experience, and I also write and conceptualize ideas. I just never was called upon it to do it. So we're, you know, all the voice guys you know and have talked to, and me, myself, and everybody, we're like an objective fulfillment machine. Like some creators got together, some producers and a director, artists, they got together, and you got to be the guy that fulfills their objective as a performer.
Right.
And I could be an objective fulfillment machine till I'm 80, and I would be happier, more than happy to do that until I kicked. But I think what I'm looking at is I would like to create something. Not just a new voice, but, you know, a show, an animated show, because I love animation, and there's no getting around that.
I would never guess that.
No, but I mean, I was so serious about it even as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, because I used to watch credits when I was first able to read.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for voices, and any cartoon that did give credits to the voiceover people, I'd see 2 names, but I just heard 25 voices, and I went,
right.
Wow.
One of these things is not like the others.
Right.
You know, and I had to find out who these nutbags were, these adults that were doing, you know, such playful, crazy things.
Wow. Let me ask you, man, is there a little piece of advice or information or a little nugget that you can give to us and them out there that could maybe help them get to a next level in regards to the voiceover business?
Okay, there was, like I said earlier, there was no roadmap years ago. There weren't teachers. There was like about 2.5 people in my city that cared, you know, or gave a hang about animation or voices. That was like, you know, we lived in a 2x2 inch square world, and I couldn't take it. There were other things that were speaking from far away,
Yeah.
And these are the people who wind up going into the business. And yes, fearlessness, I want to say, yeah, that's a big deal. There's also, it's the pushy kids that make it. I never was pushy. I basically did something, and if someone was interested in it, that was good enough for me, and I would get a job that way. But it was never like, I'm going to bother that guy to death.
Yeah.
I wasn't like that. You don't have to be like that. Just try to be good. The other thing is you need a demo tape as a voiceover. You got to go. Where would I go if I was talking to
You know what? You would go to me.
Chucky? If I was talking to Chucky, where would I go and I needed a demo?
You would go to me.
Okay, I would.
Yeah.
I would, because now it's 2012, and if I was starting out, here's a guy who can do a demo for you, and a damn good one at that. Here's somebody that you go to that puts together a reel that showcases what it is you do, your natural voice, editing together that you read commercial copy, like the real deal. You know, Anison, you know, or whatever product exists now. Anison might not exist anymore. Prince Machiavelli perfume, you know, and that tests your ability to read something and understand the subtext rather than just recite the text. It's like, what words are important?
Yeah.
And the way to get around that is you assume this character, and if you're going to be an announcer of any type, it's like automatically you realize what words are important because you've gotten out of yourself. Mm-hmm. Cartoon voices or witty little voices in that, you can make a demo of those, and they're carefully spliced together and tried and true as far as when you take it to an agency and you want to get representation. Mm-hmm. An agent gets the work for you. You know, they're the ones who arrange auditions, so you can go up close and personal. And and again, with the radio station, try to go where anybody needs your voice for something. Mm-hmm. Just make yourself available or let someone know that you're around, because that's on-the-job training. Even if it's not a paying job, it's a chance to act.
Yeah.
Someone's giving you a chance to act with an audience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even play with your cell phone as if it was an audience or another performer or something. Just have all the fun in the world at it. Because when you're starting out, there's no right or wrong. You'll learn the difference between what works and what doesn't work. Yeah. And then, even then, ignore the rule book. You know, the hard and fast rules, like, you don't do that. That is not good. And it's like, I never thought of it that way. I know I have magical thinking about. Someone says, "How do you do what you do?" I said, "I have no idea. Go ask a bee, a bumblebee, a fat bumblebee that has little tiny wings, why it can remain in the air like a helicopter."
Yeah.
It's aerodynamically impossible for the bee to be stationary and wings moving. But it doesn't know that.
It doesn't know that.
So it's doing it.
So it does it.
I swear that is a great way to think. It's like, don't tell me what the limits are. Don't tell me what the rules are. Tell me what you want. And if it's like you want excitement or you want happiness or you want sadness or be doleful, it's your job to find the way that pleases everybody. The director, he'll know. We hadn't thought of that, but people are going to love that because he knows what people love, because he's had all his experiences of failures and he knows what works. And in a way, so do you, because you're not like somebody who showed up on the planet and you're trying to examine human beings and feelings. Okay, right. I think I got it.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what people like and what they don't, because the more you talk to people, the more you find that out. Movie reviews or, no, I don't know. And then it was the greatest thing I ever saw. Yeah. It's so vast that your feelings almost have to spit out like buckshot in all those directions, because you want to be able to be the guy, even if you liked a certain movie. It's like law school. Then be another person who argues against what you just said. Mm-hmm. And stuff will come flying out of you. And it's like, why does, okay, first of all, I hated the movie. But you know what I really hate in the theaters? And suddenly you have this point of view, and it's not like you thought of it or deliberated. Mm-hmm. Right. It's coming out of another person. It's like, it's like that movie was great, theater was great. And somebody else could go, you know what? I hate that movie, number one, but I also hate going to a friggin' theater, and I'll tell you why. What, the people? And no, it's not. It has nothing to do with rudeness or the people. It's like, why does every aspect of film technology have to have its own fanfare? You know what I mean? THX. And then another thing comes up to tell
there's
you
like millions of
this, sense around.
Yeah.
4 speakers. To show that there's, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
All I got to do is hear it.
Right.
But they all have their own fanfare. And it's like,
It's like, what
half hour into the movie.
What's the movie?
Yeah.
What is this, Minority Report?
Yeah. That's funny. So here's what I get. I get live without fear. Okay? Don't be afraid of going that extra mile, of opening your mind, of thinking out loud, and don't let other people tell you what you can't or can't do. That's how he lives his life. That's what I'm getting.
No boundaries, no
boundaries, no
Well, you
limitations.
got to be practical. It's like, they teach kids, go for your dream.
Yeah.
That's not entirely the right thing to say to them, because what if the dream is a ridiculous dream and it's not possible? I'd love to play for the Lakers. It's been my dream.
How is that working out for you?
Well, it might
It's
happen.
not working out because I don't have the height.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to go for your dream. Well, pick a new dream. Pick a realistic
Right.
dream.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
what they should tell
But
kids.
see, Space Jam, you got to kind of,
We'll live in that
vicariously
world
live in
a
that
little, but that's pure imagination.
Yeah.
And that's what people who want to perform, that stuff sings to them. It's like, I can go pretend I'm drowning and I just fell off the bow of the Titanic, and 1 minute ago I was king of the world and now I'm frozen to death with hypothermia. That's a beautiful world to just dally around in, dilly-dally around in. And that's why art exists. It's like waiting for someone to come and see something that doesn't exist, and then a little later it does exist.
Yep. And that someone is going to be you.
You.
And you. Billy, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
coming on
Chucky.
VO Buzz Weekly
Thanks,
and
Stacey.
hanging out with us
Billy.
and sharing with all of us, man. We really, really appreciate you coming down and being you. And
Thank you.
And speaking from your heart, man.
I was trying. I just, I hope you can get something you can use out of all this.
Oh, yes, we can.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because we're thinking about you. Hey, everybody, it's Billy West. And I want to tell you something about a great show. I think it's the coolest show in the universe, and I was unaware of it until recently, and now I'm going to come here every week and try to be part of it, even if they lock the door. It's called VO Buzz Weekly, and do whatever you can to check it out. Just remember, every week, VO Buzz Weekly, and do it today.
Well, that's all the time we have, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in to VO Buzz Weekly, and that concludes our episode with the amazing Billy West. We'll see you next week, though.
Yeah, send us your questions and comments too. Plus, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at VO Buzz Weekly.
Yep.
You guys take care until we see you again, and just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.